Titania, thank you so much for coming on the Easy Pray podcast today.
Thank you for having me.
So, can you give myself and the audience a little bit of background about who you are and why you do what you do?
Sure. So, my name is Titania Jordan, as you said. I am a mom of a teenager and to two fur babies. Um, and I'm the chief parenting officer of a tech company called Bark, which helps protect over 6 million children across the nation and the globe. Our tech is essentially artificial intelligence that monitors, connects to children's devices, accounts, social media, text, email. And that's my dog. Sorry. Um, it monitors their tech and then sends alerts when there are issues, and issues like predation, mental health, acts of violence. Runs the gamut what kids are dealing with today. So yeah, mom, woman in tech, passionate about social media safety and mental health.
So, was there a reason that you got involved with this industry? It seems very specific.
Yes. So a few things. One is, you know, for me personally, my faith plays into this in that I really strongly believe that there's a reason for everything. Even, bad things happen to good people, but you can turn something positive uh into a negative. Or yeah, make a
Yeah.
positive from a negative. I think I need more coffee. And I really feel that God has me in this place for a reason, despite not having a degree in computer science, etc. And so part of that is part of my background. When I was a child, I'm a survivor of childhood sexual abuse. Um, so I have that in my history. Um, I also have struggled with anxiety, depression, suicidal ideation, eating disorders in my teenage years. It's like almost every issue that we alert parents to at Bark, I have personally experienced in some way, shape, or form. And I wouldn't take those experiences back if I had to do it all over again, for the most part, because they help me have compassion and understanding in a way that some might not. Um, and my unique position in the universe, in the timetable, being born in the 80s, pre all of this tech, but growing up in a way where I could natively enjoy it and not be so scared of it,
Hmm.
um, has just really positioned me uniquely to help educate other parents who might not be as comfortable or inquisitive, and connect with children and teenagers who might be going through some really terrible things, that might not know how to address it or talk about it. So that was a bit of a ramble, but the TLDR is, um, I've been through some things, I've seen some things, and I'm here to make sure that other children don't have to go through that. And if they do, God forbid, parents can help them easier and better navigate it.
Thank you for sharing that. I know it's hard for a lot of people to talk about their past and things that have happened to them. So I really appreciate you sharing that. And it's interesting because I think I grew up a little bit younger than you, a little earlier than you, and we did not grow up with the instant access to everything that kids now have access to. So it's hard for me to imagine like looking at my childhood and saying, okay, now how do I parent someone who is growing up in such a fundamentally different timeline with instant access to everything that's good and everything that's bad, and know how to manage that when I have no experience of being on the receiving end of that, so to speak, as a kid.
It's mind blowing. Um, every generation of parents, besides this one, has had a lot of knowledge to base their parenting journey on. And as we were joking about before we started recording, just you know, nobody really knows what they're doing anymore,
Yeah.
because it's the wild, wild west, hence the www and the internet. And there is no manual. There's no parents have ever gone through this before. I can't ask my mom or my grandma, what did you do when I wanted Snapchat? Or how did you navigate getting asked for nudes? It just didn't exist.
Yeah.
And now it does. Now kids can get drugs thanks to Snapchat, uh, just delivered to their house. Right? You used to have to leave your house to go make bad choices. Now those can all come to you.
And it's, oh my gosh, and it's just so fundamentally different. I mean, and the choices now, like when we were kids, we made mistakes.
Hmm.
Only our friends and parents knew about it, and if they didn't tell anybody, the rest of the world didn't know about our mistakes. And now the mistakes that kids make online, it's for us it was the joke of you better behave or it's going to go on your permanent record, as if like as if the school's going to send it off to my job or something like that. But now they're for kids, they're like their youth has a permanent record to some extent.
Yeah, my high school party memories and my college fuzzy memories are just that, memories. There's no documentation of them, thank God. And our kids are now making mistakes younger, without fully formed frontal lobes, and they are embedded, uh, on hard drives, in the cloud, on devices that you think you've wiped clean, on apps that purport to have disappearing content that doesn't disappear, that people can take pictures of and screenshots of. Kids are being exposed to everything that the world has to offer, good and bad, at a much more frequent rate and at a much younger age than kids have ever experienced in the history of being a kid. So, actually, footnote, side note, whatever note, if you have not seen the documentary Childhood 2.0, it's free. Just Google it. You can watch it on YouTube or really anywhere besides Netflix yet. Um, Watch that documentary, Childhood 2.0. It's a very chilling, heartfelt look at what it's like to be a kid today and just how different it is than any other time in history. You hear from the kids. You
Mm-hmm.
hear from ninth graders whose friends were all talking about porn, and some were even addicted to pornography as early as like fifth and sixth grade.
Oh.
Heartbreaking.
So let's talk about kind of the service, the umbrella of parental, or I guess child monitoring apps,
Hmm.
parental assistance apps.
Hmm.
What do you call this group of apps?
Yeah, I'd say it's parental controls.
Hmm.
Um, you know, Sometimes we hesitate as Bark, not everybody in this space, but as Bark, we hesitate um, to lean into the parental control aspect
Hmm.
because it's really about building a relationship. And there's a fine line there between being the parent and not the friend, but also being understanding and being a safe place, and letting go of control slowly as
Hmm.
they grow so they can become responsible digital natives when they become adults. But yes, overall, I'd say category topic is parental control, for so many reasons, not the least of which is that parents are feeling so out of control.
So it's almost control for the parents, not necessarily control of the kids, but
Right. Yeah, yeah. A parent, how do I let my child enjoy the benefits and the connection and the creativity and the curation and the competition and education of tech without all of the downsides? Is that even possible?
so let's talk about for the sake of this podcast, it's usually all the bad stuff and not the good stuff.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the sort of things that you're able to monitor for, or that parents should be monitoring for in their children, and kind of what the apps are doing to try to work against you,
Mm. Hmm.
whether it's intentional, unintentional. Let's talk about that.
Okay. Um, One resource that anybody who's really interested in just the data uh, is our annual report, where it's one thing for me as a representative of a company who stands to profit from people using it to talk about the dangers,
Hmm.
right? And get you to sign up for a service. And so it's very important to me that people understand what is reality, right? There's an element of which I wish nobody needed this, right? Would I be out of a job? Yes. Would everybody be safer and happier? Also, yes. And so let's look at the data. How often is this sort of thing happening to kids? And unfortunately, it is way higher than any of us would ever think, whether it's cyberbullying, sexual content, online predation, eating disorder content, thoughts of suicide and depression, um, acts of violence, drug and alcohol related content. I mean, it goes on and on and on. And you think, oh, maybe it's like 10%, 5%, 15%. No, I'm talking in the like 90 percentile,
Mm.
75 percentile. A very, very large portion of children are experiencing this sort of problematic people and problematic content online. And that's just from our data set. Um, you know, we are not monitoring every child's device and account across the globe yet. And so who knows what the real numbers are, but
Yeah.
our sample set is I'm actually going to pull it up. I think it's over 2 or 3 billion data points now. Um, let's see, our annual report 2021. Yeah. In 2021, we analyzed more than 3.4 billion messages across
Wow.
text, email, over 30 apps and social media platforms, and just just sexual content. Um, 70% of tweens and 90% of teens encountered nudity or content of a sexual nature.
Wow.
That's just sexual content. So yeah, that's what I want people to know. Let's start with the facts. Then let's talk about, well, what do you need to be thinking about? Well, you need to first think about, how are you modeling tech usage for your child? Because if you're telling them not to be on a screen, but you're always on a screen, that's not going to fly.
Yep.
Then you need to think about how to talk to your children about all these issues in age appropriate ways. I didn't talk to my then 4-year-old son about online predation and sextortion. He would have been like, what? Say what?
Yeah.
But what I did talk to him about was tricky people, and how, hey, if you're playing on the iPad while mom's in the shower and somehow, some way, somebody messages you and they seem really friendly, that's a red flag. That's like a bad guy potentially. That's the tricky person. And your antenna should be up if they want to know your name, where you live, how old are you, where do you go to school, anything, any PII, personally identifiable information. That's a warning sign. Come tell mom, come tell dad. You're not in trouble. It's not your fault. You didn't do anything wrong. I'm not going to take anything away from you, but you need to let me know, because that's how I can help keep you safe and we can defeat the tricky people. So it's those sort of age appropriate conversations that you need to be having with your children. So many different times. It's not just a one and done. Talk about your body parts and the actual technical names for them, and talk about how, as your children get older, there might be some pressure to even be silly and take photos, to maybe make people laugh. But those can get around, and then as your children get older, gosh, it just exponentially grows, the amount of issues, but frequent conversations. And also just know that it can happen anywhere. It's not just the apps that you hear about in the news with all the dangers.
Hmm.
Predators find kids in some of the most seemingly innocuous places. Bad, troublesome content can live, even in traditionally safe places. So you need to be their first line of defense with conversations and filtering.
So, so we talked about the filtering, and you talked about monitoring
Mhm,
texts and emails.
mhm,
What kinds of things are you looking for in those messages and emails? What should parents be, even if they don't have the app and they just
mhm,
happen to look at their kids' phones, what sort of things
mm.
should they be looking for?
That's like finding a specific grain of sand on the beach, and I'm not exaggerating. Um, but it's not impossible. You know, depending on your child's age, their education, can they read yet? If
Hmm.
so, hello comment section of anything,
Yeah.
right? Are they able to type or mistype things into Google that can lead them down unintended rabbit holes? Yeah. So search history. Are they texting with people? What's going on in their text threads? Are they using apps that have disappearing message function? Are they using apps that allow for real-time chat or video chat, FaceTime? What are they taking pictures of? Have they discovered how to hide photos? Did you know, as a parent or caregiver, there's a whole hidden folder of photos in a camera roll? Um, do kids sometimes download apps that look like other apps, but they're really vaults? Here's a tip: if your child has more than one calculator app on their phone, unless they're like the next math whiz, that's time to have a conversation, because those are vault apps that are disguised as other apps, and they hide screenshots and photos and files. Um, yeah, I'll pause there.
So when I was a kid, it was always and this was, I guess, nowadays we look at it, it was bad advice. We were always taught, stranger danger. If you're
Uh-huh.
approached by anybody that you don't know, then it's a bad thing. And
Yeah.
now we've learned that, well, most things that unfortunate things that happen to children, it's usually not the stranger, it's family members. And so you talked about, kind of watching out for kind of the predators, looking for mental health, looking uh, for violence types of
Yeah.
things. You know, is there a component to that of watching out for family members and extended family and friends that are behaving inappropriately as well?
Oh, absolutely. Unfortunately, in many cases, uh, predators are people that personally. Now, there's a divergence there when it comes to the internet, but
Hmm.
let's talk in real life first. Actually, let's back up, because you're asking me, like, where would a parent even begin to like look for these dangers, in tech? And it's interesting, right? Like, if our parents wanted to figure out what we were getting into, they might look under our bed,
Yeah.
or in our pockets, in our dirty clothes basket, um, or in our book bag for notes, right? It was so much easier for our parents to kind of do some diligence.
Yeah.
It's just not that way for us.
Yeah,
So
they,
now
they
let's
they knew when we were on the phone because the phone wasn't because the phone was tethered to the wall.
right, right, right. Um, you know, Predators are not just strangers. Um, Predators, unfortunately, are people that are, quote, upstanding members of society. They can be preachers, teachers, dentists, doctors, politicians, police officers. Like, unfortunately, predators are everywhere. Um, and that's just the ones that you encounter in real life. There's also the ones that are now online, and those are those are growing, and they have the ability to impact, unfortunately, hundreds of children, um, per predator. You can even pull up the database, right? The sex offender registry,
Yeah.
and just see how many of them there are. Um, Reach out to your local Internet Crimes Against Children unit. There's one in every state, to get a sense of what's really happening there. It's really disheartening. The National Center for Missing and Exploited Children reported a 97.5% increase in online enticement reports just
Wow.
over the course of 2020. That's chilling. It's
Yeah.
disgusting. And
And that's
so,
what's being reported, not necessarily what's just happening.
right, that's
So,
what they know about.
yeah.
So, yeah, yeah.
little dark thought, dark place there. Um, part of what I think of is kind of the codes that kids use in messaging. Is that something in order to, whether they're talking about drugs or sex or whatever they're talking about, is that something that's an ever evolving code?
Oh my gosh, kid slang. I Funny story. Um, my son and his friends kept saying on God, on God. I thought they were saying like on guard, like the
Uh-huh.
fencing term, right? And it wasn't until recently that I learned like it's like they're saying like I swear to God, which I
Yeah.
just like, oh, like they just, these things come out of nowhere, whether they're saying like bet or no cap, all of them are calling each other bro. I'm getting called bro. I'm not Mrs. Jordan. I'm bro. And like, what? So yeah, these kids today, man. And so thankfully, it's not me, mom, keeping up with that. It's our algorithm that,
Hmm.
can understand the difference of teen and tween slang, and not just words, but emojis, memes. I don't know if anybody has seen the pasta noodle emoji by any chance, in your kids' text messages. But unless it's, Italian night, you might want to look at that again, because that could also mean send nudes, like
Mm.
nudes, noodles, nude photos. It's a whole new world.
Do you guys? Is this a sort of? I know we were talking beforehand. Is this a sort of? You can find the slang on. There was a Facebook group, parenting in a tech world. Is that
Yes,
where resources of that sort of thing, where parents can go of like, hey, what does this mean?
absolutely. Yeah. I was struggling personally with trying to figure out how to be the best parent I could. Um, how much screen time is too much? When do you let your kids have a smartphone? How do you talk to your kid about pornography? All of those things, right? Um, and I didn't know where to go. And so I created a group called Parenting in a Tech World on Facebook because, you know, everybody's got a group. This was the one I wanted. Uh, Fast forward a few years, and there's now close to 250,000 parents in there talking about these things. And at Bark, we share insights there, including the latest teen slang and drug emojis, emojis that have sexual connotations. What are some hidden dangers of apps that your kids might use that you need to know about? Um, Certain viral trends, some of which are fun and funny, others which are terrible.
So is that like you talk about viral trends? Is that something you guys monitor as well as like whether it's the eating Tide Pods? Okay, I'm really dating myself. That's probably like 6 months or 2 years ago. But oh gosh, what was the latest one? Oh, now I forget what it.
NyQuil chicken.
Yes, the Nyquil chicken. Like, is that something that you monitor for? That Bark monitors for in the apps?
Yes. Yeah. Concerning trends, all of that. We're utilizing anonymized data to help, uh, keep kids safer online, and then as a result in real life. Because you have no idea what your kid's doing all day on their device unless you're sitting right beside them and looking over their shoulder,
And you probably still don't know what it means.
right? So that's where our check comes in.
And I assume you're not coming from a position of no parent should ever let their kid have an electronic device until they're 18 because
No,
that has its own has its own connotations and issues. But there's this sliding scale of responsibility and monitoring, and that's got to be kind of worked out on a case by case basis.
absolutely. You know, we're not here to judge your parenting style. If you are in the camp of, we are not even going to have internet in our home, okay, good luck with that. Your kid's probably going to have a really lovely childhood in so many ways, but also a rude awakening when they leave the house. Uh,
Or they're going to get a burner phone from one of their friends.
or that. Um, but yeah, it's really about going on the journey with them. And it's not just tech, whether it's healthy eating or more physical activity or, learning something new together as a family. travel, cooking, anything. Tech is a part of our lives now. And so how do you embark on that in a healthy way? How do you balance what it does to your brain? How do you keep in mind how much time you're spending on it? How do you evaluate the quality of what you're engaging with? Passive consumption is a lot different than active learning or
Yeah.
creating. I would much rather my son be figuring out how to use Photoshop than just blindly watching somebody rant on a TikTok about something that they have no idea what they're talking about.
Hmm. I'm trying to figure out how to. So are there? Because I come from a place of like, I have lots of discussions about privacy and
Yes.
and security and
Yes.
kind of knowing what your apps are sharing and aren't sharing. Is that some of the discussions that you've had with your son of
Oh
like
yeah.
making sure like, hey, you don't want to be sharing your, Snapchat doesn't need to know your precise location.
Oh
nor,
my gosh.
nor does your calculator app.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And we bring it up in a lot of different ways. For example, and some of the schools he's gone to, they ask for parent permission to take photos of your child, share them on their website, on their social media. And without me just making that decision, I'll go to him and be like,
Mhm.
hey, here's how I feel about this. How do you feel about this? Let's talk about your digital footprint and where it lives. When I'm filling out something online and asks for my social security number, that's another point of education. It's like, how secure, is this site's practice? Are they SOC 2 compliant? Are they using two-factor authentication? When my son did get a smartphone, we talked about how you don't let your friends know your phone password because
Yep.
that's a whole world of pain. So yes, digital footprint, security, privacy, it's all critical. They are evolving conversations just in our society and ones you absolutely need to be having with your child.
And I know there's even I have some friends with kids who, they'll take pictures of them, but they
Mhm.
won't post them on any social media platform without talking to the kid first
Yes.
because they don't know the connotations and how other kids are going to read, how other kids are going to perceive that photo. I've heard, of kids just being totally upset because there was a photo of a couple of their friends posted online and they weren't tagged, they were in it and they weren't tagged, so that had this this under the surface meaning that I'm upset with you.
Hmm.
And if the parents posted a picture, then it meant this, and like there was all this complexity and nuance that the parents were like, I, I never even thought of that.
Well, there's that, and there's also just going back to what's in the parents' control. Every back to school year and every end of the school year when parents are posting photos of their children's full names, grades, teachers'
Hmm.
names, their hobbies. You know, I get it. You're proud of your child. I'm proud of your child, even if I've never met them. Um, but I just don't think that's a wise thing to do. And some people are really good about their limiting who can see that, right? Maybe you really are only connected to 10 people on Instagram and it's the grandma and the uncle and the best friend. And that's cool. That's way safer than if you've got 200 friends, 400 friends, a
Yep.
thousand friends. The larger your circle gets, the riskier it is. And it's just rethink the why too. Would it be safer to maybe text that to 3 people who really know your child, love your child, care about your child, who your child knows as well? Are you trying to show off, or are
Hmm.
you trying to create connection? There's a fine line.
Yeah. And I guess it's the same discussion you have with your kids of why are you sharing this? Who are you sharing with it, and what are you expecting to have out of it?
Right, like that selfie at the beach. Are you proud because you've been working out and you feel good, and because you feel good you look good, or like Or are you trying to solicit feedback, which may be positive, maybe
Yeah.
negative? Are you vulnerable? Are you sharing not only the good pictures with the good lighting, but also the bad pictures with the bad lighting and the unfavorable? Like, it's a whole thing, right? You can either contribute to the uplifting of the people who are following you, or you can contribute to the unrealistic narrative and the comparison trap and the FOMO. We all have a responsibility to think about that whenever we're posting and we're sharing.
I mean, even as an adult, I have to think about the fact that whatever somebody is sharing is in some way, shape, or form, it's curated.
Uh-huh.
Like,
Yep.
if I see a competitor's business sharing stuff and how great their business is doing or whatever, that may not be the case. And like even as an adult, it's sometimes hard to read of like, okay, what's really going on here? Is this is this reality or is this just the reality that someone or something wants to share?
Even the Be Real app is not 100% reality. It's closer, and I applaud, the thinking behind it. But even that, it's like, it's just it, like you said, it's curated. In real life connection is something that we need to continue to prioritize for our emotional intelligence and mental health.
Mm-hmm. It's funny, like through this discussion about a parental control app
Mhm.
has been, in some sense, very little about an app and more about these sort of things as being a conduit to have a conversation with your kids.
Exactly. Bark is a tool, just like a car is a tool. Cars can get you places and you can, do a lot of great things with them. Um, but you need to, wear a seatbelt and make sure you have car insurance. Smartphones are a tool, social media is a tool. All of these tools, have great capabilities, but also have some downsides. And so when you're thinking about how do you parent in today's day and age, you can be at a major disadvantage if you are not spending time where your children spend time, which is most likely online, gaming, in certain apps, and if you're not using tech to help with the tech that you've given
Yeah.
them.
And it's the tech is not, like you said, the tech is not the answer. It's just a tool to help you make that connection and help you raise your children as opposed to the tech raising your children.
Exactly, exactly. Gosh, tech in a lot of ways has become a substitute babysitter, but it is no substitute. It is a distraction. Um, it is a short-term fix that can create some long-term problems. So, use use the right tools to give you insights into your children's world that is becoming more and more isolated inside of a device that you don't know where to navigate, and use that to help build a relationship with your child. Um, that relationship is everything. And especially as they get older and as they spend more time inward inside themselves, in their phones, in their friend group, it's hard to extract what's important to them.
Mm-hmm.
It's sometimes hard to see signs of distress. Um, Sometimes it's hard to even understand like what they're into. What sort of music do they like? Like my parents knew what kind of music I liked. They could hear it blasting in my
Yeah.
room. You know, you may never hear what your child is listening to or what they're binge watching, on a streaming platform. You just have to work extra hard to get those insights.
Hmm. Do you have any, gosh, I hate to phrase it as a success story or
Hmm.
some stories where your app has, where you've gotten feedback from a parent where, oh my gosh, I didn't realize this, but because of this, it's helped XYZ.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It goes back to when we were talking at the top of this um, time together about how, in some ways I wish there wasn't a need for this,
Hmm.
but there is. And we hear from parents every day who thank us on the lighter end, um, for the ability to connect with their child on a deeper level because of the insights that Bark gave them, to more severe, uh, you know, life-saving situations. In fact, I'm flying to Colorado in a few days to speak with a mom who reached out to me to let me know that Bark saved her child's life.
Hmm.
Um, every day we're sending right now a little over 100 severe self-harm, suicidal ideation alerts each
Wow.
day. Um, and so, yes, Bark has escalated over 1,000 predators to law enforcement, has escalated credible school shooting and bomb threats to law enforcement, um, has saved children's lives, and it's chilling, it's moving, and we, based on the data and based on the rate at which these incidents are increasing, know that it needs to be around.
Yeah. It's fortunate that you guys provide the service that you do, and that there are parents out there that really want to connect with their kids, help their kids,
Yeah,
uh, maybe in ways that our parents didn't help with us, or maybe ways that our parents did help with us.
right.
Um, and so, to me, it's really neat to see that. Yeah, this one tool is not the end all be all. It's not going to solve every problem, but for some people, it's going to give an insight. It's going to give help. It's going to help them to connect with their kids and talk about things that they wouldn't have necessarily known the appropriate time to talk about. But now that it's come across, I know that my kid has seen X, Y, or Z, gone to a porn site. Okay, I guess we have to have that conversation now, as opposed to, oh, you've been addicted to porn for 5 years and we didn't know about it. Now we have to have a very different conversation.
Absolutely. Prevention and education and empowerment is really, core to what we do. Um, you can't do anything if you don't know what to do, and know what's happening. So learn about what's happening with kids today, like for real. Get familiar with where it's happening, how
Yeah.
it's happening, and then utilize both the free tools at your disposal, whether it's Apple Screen Time or Google Family Link, or whatever settings exist on your home router or smart television, or whatever's connected in your home. Figure out what parental controls exist and utilize them. And then for that extra layer of additional insight and safety, use Bark. I mean, if you're going to get your child a smartphone, we're releasing the Bark phone, which is going to be the safest kids phone out there. And we're not saying your kid needs a phone.
Yeah.
Um, more kids do not need more smartphones earlier. But if you're going to make that decision, it might as well be a safer one.
And that's something where you're integrating more deeply at the OS level so that you know what's being installed and can't be overridden.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, essentially, there's if you can uh, plug in a device and it's ready to go, that makes it easiest for parents.
Yeah.
And that's what we're trying to do, is make make parenting easier. Keep kids safer, make parenting easier. The circle. It's a circle.
I like that. So if people want to find more about the app, it's
Mhm.
bark.us,
Correct. Yeah, not bark.com, bark.us.
bark.us, and
Mhm.
we'll also make sure to put a link to the Parenting in a Tech World Facebook group. And if
Awesome.
people want to reach out to you, how can they find you?
Yeah, just Google Titania Jordan. Thankfully, I have a unique name and I've been able to get that handle on all the places: Instagram,
Nice.
Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, you name it. Love to connect.
Awesome. Titania, thank you so much for coming on the Easy Pray podcast today.
Thank you for having me, Chris.